Welcome to Road Adventures of Cycling Men of Leisure. As usual, I am Adam, and once again, join with me virtually again, not AI, but virtually from the great state of Kansas, my good friend, Mr. Michael Sharp.
Adam, hello. How you doing?
Doing good, buddy. Doing good. Uh, how have you been?
I have been very good.
Very good.
Very
Excellent.
good.
Travel.
Because
Yes.
my travels did not require me to fly standby or anything like that. So it's been good.
Wonderful. So no delays.
No delays. I got boosted up. I got upgraded.
Nice.
And the beautiful thing about being upgraded is I got upgraded to a seat, and this has not happened to me in years. There was two on one side. There was nobody in the seat next to me. So I had two seats and an upgrade.
Wow. No
It
one was
was
flying to Kansas, huh?
or no one wanted to sit next to me, whichever didn't matter. Worked out well for me.
I tell you what, the last time I flew home from Kansas, the plane was packed. Maybe people are using Detroit as a hub to go other places. So,
Well,
um, I mean, packed. I didn't even get a seat. I had to stand. No, I'm just kidding. um, the one problem with you flying back to your airport is they didn't have any Starbucks in that airport.
and that affected me how?
Well, since you don't drink coffee, I guess none. But for those of us who enjoy a little beverage when we get somewhere, a nice roasted bean beverage, then that would have been nice to have. So
Eh,
can't
I live
believe it.
just fine without it.
Feel better in the central time?
Everything is working in harmony here in Central Time.
Okay. Good luck with that.
How you been?
Good. We so our show is a little delayed this time. We normally like to get a show out every 2 weeks, and we pride ourselves on doing that. Where some shows would laugh and be like, every 2 weeks, we put one out every week. Well, I mean, there's not a lot of meat on the bone for cycling, and we want to make it
Want to make it
interesting. So,
count?
yeah, we take a lot of pride in the subject matter, and so I was
Be,
away.
be honest.
Yes,
Be honest. Do we
yes,
really have time to record one every week?
I don't.
You would have to give up Golf Wednesdays.
I'm sorry, but that's not going to happen. So,
Exactly. I'm
uh,
sorry. Go ahead.
another part of the delay was me. My annual transit conference is at a place called Crystal Mountain. If you've been in Michigan for a while, you would know that is a beautiful resort. It's skiing in the winter and golf in the summer, and they've got a beautiful place. But so every year we go there, and that was this week. And then so you and I made the decision to put out a two-part episode, which we had enough information about our last adventure that we thought we could do that. And so sorry for the delay, but I'm doing well. I'm back. I'm excited to be back, and I'm excited to do these shows with you. It's been a while since I've been doing this with you, buddy. So
Yeah, it's good to be back. So what are we going to talk about on today's show?
well, first of
What do we
all,
got?
we got a couple of messages. Let
Uh
me
oh.
pull. No, so far it's good, man. We are making some friends. So the first message we got was just a small little message, but doesn't have to be big to be powerful. Um, I got a message from a lady by the name of Margaret. She says, "I met you on Bragg." I think the message was to us, but she said, "I too wear a debrim, of course. I mean,
Sorry.
like all cool cyclists. Mine's a visor only," she says. "Got to keep myself protected." Exactly, Margaret. You are a genius.
It's called
Um,
sunscreen.
uh, Carcinogen, no thanks. Margaret and I are smart enough not to put that stuff all over our face. Maybe she does. I'm just kidding. But she says, "I listened to your CMOL brag recap. You all really know how to enjoy the week." Thank you, Margaret. We sure do. We have a great
Mm-hmm.
time. She says, "I hope to see you in 2025." And as of now, I think that's our plan. So I don't see us backing down from that plan. And Margaret McDaniel, 19 years of brag and counting, she says, which is a
Wow.
lot of years of brag.
Hardcore.
First year was in 93, skipped a few in there, but obviously she went to the important ones if we were there. So um, I'm now filling the room with BS, but at the same time, thank you, Margaret. Thank you for your wonderful message. Um, and then a friend of the show, a gentleman by the name of Stephen Witz, we've
Oh,
probably,
yes.
he wrote us. Now, let me ask you something. This is directly revolving our last listener spotlight. Would you prefer to do the clues first and then me read his message? Or would you prefer me reading his message and then do the clues?
Let me do the clues first,
Okay, but
and
hold
then
on.
you can read the message. And I assume he's got a guess,
Oh, yeah.
and then that'll kind of relate back to the clues. So,
That sounds wonderful. Before you do that, ladies and gentlemen, it is now time for Listener Spotlight.
all right, this week's listener spotlight. The
St. Louis.
clues. Yes,
Just kidding.
it's not St. Louis.
Okay,
Okay,
fine.
not St. Louis.
Fine.
The clues I gave are as follows: the city started out as a trading post in the late 1800s.
Okay.
The city is in a state that was originally in another state's territory.
Okay.
The city serves as one of the front lines for firefighting. If you are into craft beers, this town should be on your list to visit. And the city is world renowned for a large rock. Not St. Louis.
I knew it wasn't St. Louis. And for reminders, although if you listen to the last episode like 3 seconds ago and then you played this, you won't need a reminder. But I did guess Denver, Colorado, on our last episode, which by the way was like 3 weeks, maybe even 4 weeks
So
ago.
why did you guess Denver, Colorado?
You said big rock. You said breweries, territories. I just went with that.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
and so Steven, our friend, wrote us and said, "Hey guys, love the show. Not only great entertainment. Hey, thanks a lot, buddy. Appreciate that.
Take it
Um,
when we can get it.
that's right. But you give out homework with Listener Spotlight. Congrats on breaking the 1,000. He's talking about the 1,000 likes on Facebook, which we now have 1,145. So there we go. And then he said, and the 12K, which was 12,000 downloads, which I think we're close to 13 now, but on YouTube and the store. Mackinac Island is on the bucket list, something other than a flying Yugo listener spotlight. So many good new laptop processors coming out. I think he's alluding to with the homework, he's going to go out and buy a new laptop.
Oh, there we go.
So he'll be inquiring some intelligence with a new laptop when we get the sale at Thanksgiving. He's Black Friday.
Little Black
Um,
Friday.
and then he can do more homework on listener spotlight.
Well, I'm
Um,
proud that I can give him an excuse to go out and buy a new computer.
Absolutely. But let's get into what he says. He
Okay.
says, just like last week's clues had to do with Lewis and Clark and the expiration of Louisiana Purchase,
Mm-hmm.
this week, in my humble opinion, has to do with what becomes of the acquisition. By the way, I forgot about Sergeant Floyd and the monument in Sioux City. Guest for this week is Colorado Spring. Think Adam has the state right?
Hmm.
Yes, I love it. So should be rewarded with half the points. Thank you, Stephen. I
Well,
appreciate that.
before we start giving out points, let's make sure
Well, hold
you're
on.
correct.
So why Colorado Springs? He says there were trading posts established during the 1860s during the Pikes Peak's gold rush.
True.
The area became affluent and the town was established soon after. There was a Colorado territory and there was a vast Kansas territory as part of the purchase. So originally, Colorado Springs was in the Kansas territory, and there was, as the territories were being divided, part of the Kansas territory east of the Continental Divide, the Moffat or Moffat?
Moffat.
Moffat, thank you. Moffat Tunnel in Denver was succeeded to Colorado, and Colorado became a state in 1876. Wow, what a great year. Um, the fire clue drew a blank for me, guys. There are 30 craft breweries in Colorado Springs and 360 in the state. So always close proximity to Suds. The Rock, question mark, he says? Garden of the Gods, maybe? Thanks so much for everything, guys. Stephen, I really appreciate your willingness to write us. I love your guesses. Uh, Mr. Sharp, does Stephen have anything going there?
Well, I do appreciate it, Stephen. And I appreciate how thorough you are in your research and coming up with the potential answer. You are correct in the trading post. You are correct that it did that Denver and the Denver area and the Colorado Springs area did used to belong to the Kansas Territory. Uh, Colorado's a big craft beer state. Um, but Adam gets no points. I'll give you half points, Stephen, but Adam gets no points because it is, thank you, it is not in the state of Colorado.
Hmm.
Thanks
Man,
for playing again this week, Adam.
I tried.
So you wanna figure out, you wanna know what the town is?
I always want to know what the town is.
This week's listener spotlight is Missoula, Montana.
Oh, thank you, listeners from Missoula, Montana.
And let me explain how I got this for those following along. The city started as a trading post in the late 1800s as the Hellgate Trading Post. Uh, Founded in 1866, the town was incorporated in 1883. The city was originally part of the Washington Territory, which originally included all of Idaho, parts of Montana, and Wyoming before the boundaries were finally drawn in 1863. The firefighting is that the city serves as one of the front lines for firefighting. They are home to the Missoula Smokejumpers base. You know those guys that fly over forest fires and jump out of planes, fight
Yeah.
it, from the inside out. Craft beers, they rank fourth in the U.S. for the number of craft breweries per capita. And the large rock, the city is world renowned for a large rock, and that's because just right down the road, the Atlantic Cable Quartz Lode produced what is claimed to be the largest gold nugget ever found, and that sold for $19,000 in 1889. So a big piece of rock. And there you have it.
Wow. So, Missoula, Montana, we thank you. We thank you for all listeners, but this week we're going to honor Missoula, Montana.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Perfect. Well, thank you once again for giving us our listener spotlight. Of course, we've got a little surprise to the end, so we'll save that for later. But
Okay.
um, why don't we do our reviews that you can use? So,
Okay.
um,
Absolutely.
on our last adventure, which we're going to get into Shoreline, Ride the Shoreline, um, we had a few products. You had some, I had some, and we had some. And so, a little recap: we had the Cyplus and the Fend helmet and the Cyplus pump.
Yes.
And so, this was the second trip. So, let me not steal your thunder. This was the second trip with the Cyplus air pump. What do you think?
Well, the first trip after Georgia, that was the first time we'd used it. Uh, I was giving it two thumbs up. Thought it was a great product. You and I both used it. We blew up completely empty tires. We topped off tires in the morning. Again, when we went to Shoreline, we did the same thing. Uh, and we were even topping off other, some of our team members' tires and other people's tires. And, you know, I still give it two thumbs up. I think it's a great product. It was efficient. It worked really well. Never ran out of juice.
Mm-mm.
Um,
Even when I pulled the valve stem out by accident.
that's true. You pulled the valve stem out, all the air went out, you refilled it up, no problems. So it's a great product. It holds a charge. It doesn't use a lot of charge to do it. It is a little loud, so it's not one of those things you want to be doing after like 10 o'clock at night, quiet, time, so to speak. Or, you know, if you're one of those people that are leaving at 4:30 in the morning or 5 o'clock, it's not a product you want to use because I mean it is a little loud, but fills it up. You can set it to 100, 110, whatever you want the pressure to be. Click the button, it charges it up. When it hits that point, it stops. So definitely a product that we're going to continue to use, and
Absolutely.
I think it's great.
And even to the point where the first night we got to camp in Shoreline, I saw the SAG people, the broom wagon, and I saw their price for CO2. I was like, "Oh man, I forgot my CO2 cartridges." And you're like,
And I was
"Wait a
like,
minute, we got the
don't need
pump.
that.
We got the pump." So it definitely worked. And sorry, but it even fell out of its holder because I don't know if you didn't have it as tight as you thought it should
Yeah,
be.
it fits where one of my water bottles. It's got a holder that it fits where one of my water bottles, and it's got a Velcro strap. And it was basically wasn't a product issue. It was Michael didn't get it strapped down tight, and we hit a really rough part of road, and it went popping out and went flying across the road and stopped. Went back, picked it up, continued working beautifully, no problems whatsoever. Even after, I mean, we were probably going, I don't know, 16, 17 miles an hour along there, really rough, popcorn asphalt, pops out, rolls across, still works beautifully. So,
Nice. The other product that you had was your folding fend helmet. This was trip number two.
yes. The Finn helmet, it's collapsible, and I used it in Georgia, didn't have any problems. And again, use it up in Shoreline, worked beautifully. And I really, really, really like this product even more because the side's full up, so it's kind of just a rectangle. It fits really nice in my backpack or in my bag because I'm flying, so I need those, take up as least amount of space as possible. And oh, it's fantastic. I love it. I'm gonna keep using it, so I give that two thumbs up as well. Definitely a great helmet to have, especially if you're a commuter or if you have to drag your helmet along, stick it in a bag and stuff. That just helps reduce the amount of space. So I'm going to keep using it.
And now you've branded it.
Yeah, I did stick a right here, "Cycling Man of Leisure" sticker on the back, so it's officially branded. I waited because I didn't want to slap our sticker on there, and then this failed miserably, and then you know I've got to take our sticker off there. So, but great product.
So those were a recap of our reviews, but for this adventure, we had three new reviews of products that we've used. One is a repeat for me, but something new for you, which was you decided to go with carbon wheels. And in just a second, I'd like to hear how that went. I
Sure.
actually own carbon wheels, and if you're an avid listener, knows that I destroyed one in Georgia. Um, but in the nick of time, got it in for Shoreline, and actually arrived before Shoreline, excuse me. And then our new Jersey store. If you haven't heard, we do have a Jersey store, and we've been adding. I cannot believe the design team is. I mean, they're working gangbusters. Our store is growing more and more, and it's
We've
funny.
got everything on there now:
I know it's going to be
mountain bike shorts and wind vests and getting
sports
hats
bras.
here, sports hats. Oh, the women's sports bras, which let me tell you, my wife is like, "How's come I don't have one of those?" It's like, it just
Well,
got up there. I'll order you one. Not a big deal.
get the credit card out and buy her one, buddy.
I'm going to. But we got a lot of great products, and I think there's a couple products that haven't got up there that we're working on getting on
Yeah.
there. But just a wide variety. Sleeves. We've got the sleeves now too.
Yep.
So anyway,
So, that's kind of cool. But our Jersey store you and I actually, for a couple of reasons, we purchased off the store. We wanted to see the level of expectation of shipping.
Hmm.
We wanted to see the product so people could actually see the quality, quantity, and how, how did it hold up. And so we're going to get into that. So without further ado, what'd you think of carbon wheels?
I've been fighting carbon wheels, as you know, for a long time. And when you were in Georgia, you blew that one out. You've been telling me, oh, you really need to get carbon wheels, carbon wheels, carbon wheels. And so I finally decided right after Georgia, I would go ahead, get myself a set of carbon wheels. Got them from a company called Wheel Science, which is the same folks that produced yours. Very happy with them. They gave me the brakes because you have to have carbon brakes versus the regular. Switched out my brakes, put the new wheels on there, put the new tubes, the wheel tape, all that. Put them up. Very impressed with them. I could definitely tell a difference in the carbon versus the aluminum. And when I say tell a difference in a positive way. So
Sweet.
very happy with them.
Good.
Color didn't exactly come out. I had them, specific color that I wanted them to produce. Wasn't exactly 100% on the mark, but the product itself, great product. And I'm really happy I spent the money and upgraded.
That's cool. Um, my review for this episode and this adventure is people probably starting to notice these new tubes. They're like high tech. They're very thin, like a vinyl material, if you
They look
will.
fake.
They do
Let's
look
just
fake.
say it. They look fake.
They look fake. I mean, it looks like thick. I mean, not thick. Forget the word thick. Forget you heard the word thick. Think thin, 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 thin.
Like
Like
balloon. It looks like a balloon
like a thin
skin.
plastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, very, very thin. I was concerned that I would either crease it or crinkle it by putting it into the tire. Um, on our last adventure, we're going to get in a shoreline, obviously, but uh, we had one flat tire. We being me, and you were definitely helpful by helping me. We always help each other when we're out there.
Hmm.
Um, with the pump that you had and holding the bike and getting everything off and little when you're taking the wheel off the back and so we've done it a few times, so no problems. And putting that thing in there, it's supposed to be lighter tube, supposed to be not as heavy to carry, supposed to be 4 grams off. Yeah, like I can cycle the amount of
You
the
were going a
four.
lot faster. Minus had 4 grams.
You know what? I mean, it was like a shoo, you know, there I was down on my bars having a good. No, I'm just kidding. But no, it was. I have to say that on purpose because I haven't been on my bike since we've been back. On purpose, I have been going out there and kind of like squeezing it and testing it. Out of the box, it says holds air longer than a traditional tube. I gotta tell you, before recording tonight, I specifically made my wife dinner and then I went out there. I got to tell you, I agree with the box. It definitely holds air longer than a traditional tube. So
So it's still holding the air that you put in it
I'm
two
pretty,
2 weeks ago.
yep, I'm pretty impressed with that. So,
I
um,
was worried because it's really thin and it's really, I mean, it compacts down into really small. And
yep,
what's funny is just before you showed me that you had that, I did see him on Facebook or something. And it's one of those things I'm like, this looks like a total scam. And when I was pumping air in, I was like, this thing is just going to explode at any time. I didn't really think it was going to hold air. So I was impressed that it's still holding air.
I I have a confession.
Uh,
When we were holding that pump, so when you picture that Cyplus pump, if you go on Amazon, you'll see that the tube that screws into the pump that then screws into the tire is about 6 inches long. I think it's right around 6 inches.
yeah, probably.
We were holding the tire, making sure that there would be no pinch flats and that the clinchers were going to clinch into the rim. And we're on the side of the road, and we first told the machine, I think we told it 20 psi, then
Yeah, just to
30,
get it
and
started.
yeah, and then I think we told it then 70, and then we told it whatever. And I think I like it like 110 to 120. And so we were holding the tire the whole time, and I was blowing up. I thought to myself, "Is this where the adventure ends? Is this thing just going to go boom?" Right? So
I had no idea. But
oh
I was thinking the same thing. I was like, okay.
yeah. But I got to tell you, couple pros on those tubes. You and I always use those Rock Bros bags, our
Hmm.
top tube bag, and it's usually filled to the gill with like two tubes and tire levers and CO2 cartridges and everything else. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to switch that whole thing over to those new tubes. I'd be able to get three of them tubes, and of course, once you go to carbon wheels, depending on how depth, 60 millimeters or 80
Yep.
millimeters, the Presta valve has to be long enough. So the average sag guy is not going to be like, "Oh, I got a tube." You're going to be like, "No, you don't." So you got to make sure you carry your own. I'm going to switch over from the rubber tubes to these. It was amazing. So there's my review. I highly recommend it if you've been thinking about it.
What
While
what brand is that? Do you know?
you know what? I'll drop it in the notes. I'm not gonna lie. Jeff Bezos has a space company that builds rocket ships. He also builds tubes or sells tubes. So I bought it there. So okay,
Okay.
it's Amazon.
Yeah, definitely get the name out there
I
so
will.
so we know what we're looking for.
Yeah,
So
we'll do that. It was an offshoot brand. That's why I don't even remember. But um, when
well, you can't give
you,
me a product review without the name of the product.
oh my gosh, you're like one of
Yeah, I'm
those
one of
guys
those
who.
guys. Exactly.
Well, I'll tell you what, while I'm looking for that product, we will go ahead and move forward. And we will talk about our jerseys. And
Oh yes.
uh, the product name was Springo, Spingo Inner Tube, uh, Spingo, Spingo Inner Tube. So if you're thinking about new inner tubes, it says that. Let's see here what the description says. Anything in the descriptions? Oh,
Looks fake.
yeah.
Doesn't look like it will hold air.
They're calling it a TPU inner tubes that are not only lightweight and durable, but also designed to reduce environmental impact. We understand the needs of professional cyclists and recreational riders alike, offering products that enhance performance while being easy to carry and install, which is exactly why I'm going to switch. The install was simple because getting that tire over that little tube was amazing. Instead
Oh
of
yeah.
like biting that big piece of rubber, but I apologize for not having the name before, but Spingo.
Spingo inner tubes.
And
Excellent.
Spingo
And they're
was,
like a greenish blue color.
yep, yep, almost like a
Yeah.
neon, if you will. So if you're looking for it, I stand behind that. Cycling Men of Leisure stands
There
behind the
you go.
Spingo inner tube. And last review would be the Jackaroo kit. Now, in this one, it's a little bit difficult because I went with I traditionally like to wear bibs. You like to wear shorts, but we both popped on the jersey. We both of us bought the ladies' jersey, the Cycling Women of Leisure. We honored our ladies' team out there in up there, I should say, in Shoreline.
But let me clarify. We
Yes,
bought the ladies' jersey, but it was a men's cut jersey
yes, it
with
was.
the ladies' logo. So we didn't buy the ladies' jersey and wear it. Through Jack Rue, you're able to pick the style. You can
Yes,
have a regular sports cut jersey, or you can have the shirtsy or whatever, and you can put either the men's
jersey
or the women's logo on.
in honor of Phoenix, the jersey.
That's right. And you can put whichever logo on. So it was a men's cut jersey with the women's logo because we wanted to honor the women. And we had a lot of comments from the ladies writing that they liked the fact that we were honoring female cyclists.
So you and I do not get a discount on the jerseys, which is kind of funny. And let me tell you, it was worth every penny because the day one we wore Cycling Men of Leisure, and you'd see some people like, "What is that?" We flew the flag at camp every night, and what's this all about? And then the next day when we had the ladies' jersey, people were like, "Oh, you guys support ladies too?" I'm like, "It is never about not supporting anybody." So, but but
We have never not supported women cycling.
I don't. If you ride a bike and you listen to podcasts, you're a friend of ours. I don't care what gender you qualify for.
You don't even
So
have to listen to the podcast. You're still a friend of ours. So,
yeah, but I like it better if you listen to
well,
the show
I get it.
personally because I'm selfish.
But
But
The
Uh,
products,
yes.
the quality was really good. Typically, we have always went with another brand
Yep.
because of the fit and the consistency. For me, they
Primal.
yes, Primal, yeah, because you know what you're getting and it's very consistent.
Right.
The sizing was very close to Primals, if not right on.
Yeah.
As far as, and I know you're going through a transition here with your slimming down, so
Not a gender transition, but a slimming transition. So,
okay, hey, you know what? Don't ask, don't tell. Um, so it was right
yeah.
on task as far as the size. I had the shorts. The shorts wore very well. I know we'd had
Yep.
some other brands that rides had sold
Yep.
that weren't Primal in the past, and after a week of riding, you could tell where there was some wear and tear. Didn't have any of that. They washed really good because we washed midweek, and the jerseys were fantastic. They had the little side zipper pocket on it, which were really super convenient. And your jersey was slightly different than mine on the women's jersey, I believe, because they do give you the option of doing the reflective material
Yep.
on the back pocket. I
Mhm.
didn't do that on mine, but you did it on yours.
Only
Which when
Yeah,
you're
I only did
riding,
it because we were
yeah,
gonna show people the jersey and stuff.
but I could see a difference in that when I was like coming up behind you and stuff. So um, I think they were really great products, and you and I haven't really talked a lot about this. So
I bought the bibs and the men's. I bought the jersey and the ladies. And you know, when I was first concerned about the chamois, but I have to tell you, it's just because I was probably just used to the primal. And my concern at first was the fit, and I thought, well, is this going to be okay? But honestly, it was amazing. Um, Everything was great. Even one day, I forgot chamois butter, and I thought, oh no, I'm going to pay the price for it. And no issues, concerns. Didn't have any saddle sores or nothing throughout the week, and so I do contribute to having better. Almost everything I was wearing was new because you're right. I've slimmed down, so everything didn't fit. I had to buy a bunch of new stuff. So but yeah, I would like to give the Jackaroo the store. I give the whole experience an A+. Um,
because
the
the ordering was seamless.
Mhm.
You just go onto the store, you pick what product you want, you pick what logo you want. If there's any additions that you can put on there, you pick whether or not you want those, and it ships directly to you. And honestly, I got mine a day earlier than what they said it would that I would be received. So, you know,
Yeah, they
under promise over deliver.
on their site, when you go on there, you can go to cyclingmenofleisure.com if you're trying to pay attention from home. And then you can do find our stores. And we actually have two stores. We have a store where we sell t-shirts and hats. And then we have a store that has jerseys. But when you log on to the jersey store, it says if you ordered today, you'll get it on this date. And like you, I got it one day before. I think I was even supposed to get it a day before that, but regretfully, if you remember, we had a lot of rains and
Yeah.
storms, and I got this email from them. Great communication that said due to flooding in your area, which we did have lots of flooding in our area, that it was delayed by one day, but it still beat the level of expectation date. Everything was packaged well, and then the product wore well. And even though they are somewhat white, some people get concerned of white, and you're sitting down and you're resting. Everything cleaned up beautifully. So, uh,
The other product I want to mention off there,
yeah,
which I've never worn before, they have a technical hoodie, which is like a hoodie with lightweight technical material. And it was chillier up there than what we were expecting. And so there was a couple of days that I wore just that over, my outfit for a little extra layer, and it was fantastic. So I'm sold in the whole tech jersey thing.
that was. I mean, that was great. I mean, they when the design team told me about it at first, he said, "Oh, a lot of people like this for walking or just as an average average thing going to the store, and some people like it for riding." And at first, when you said it for riding, I'm like, riding has no pockets, had nothing. But there was a couple of days when we were up north, as they say, where it was a little chilly a couple
Oh
mornings.
yeah.
So those are our reviews that you can use. And if you're looking for a jersey and you want it to be branded like Cycling Men or Cycling Women of Leisure, please check out our store. You'll definitely love it. But just the quality itself, I would say was amazing. So they make
Oh,
a great
definitely.
product. I think with that, let me see here. Let me check my notes here. We talked about Margaret McDaniel and her to brim. Thank you, Margaret. We talked about Stephen and his wonderful communications. I believe it's time to get
Let's talk
into
shoreline.
let's talk shoreline. Uh, Ride the shoreline. And we did, my friend. We did. Um,
Yes.
so when you have a podcast, you you think to yourself, okay, we're going to talk about our adventures and our rides and things that we've done, and so I think we need to be transparent. I think you and I have always said from day one that if we do a ride that we're willing to mention, that we need to be transparent
Absolutely.
with our listeners. Our integrity is what we believe in. And so there were a few things that were amazing. There were a few things that were disappointing. There were a few things that were just as you would expect, and I think we can get into that. I think for me, I'll start with some of the highlights. We
Well,
had,
let me. Can I back up for a second?
yeah,
I think we need to set the stage.
okay,
Um, Previous to, I think, last year, this ride had been ran by volunteers, as I understand it.
I think so.
They had a volunteer ride director, and it was all through volunteer staff that put this on through the
LMB,
League of Michigan Bicyclist.
yep,
Um, Last year, I think, was the first year that they hired on an official paid position of a ride director.
correct,
And I think this is important because we know a couple of things in this industry as far as long distance, long touring cycling. Number one, we know that a lot of them are consolidating or going out of business. Hence, we've talked about Ride the Rockies, those kind of things, because of ridership. Right now, we're going through a lull where there's not as many people out there wanting to do these kind of rides. And so that plays into this. But I also think the fact that, the new structure that they have and the fact that this is only his second year, I think also plays into. So I just kind of wanted to set the stage that this ride, although it's been around, is done some restructuring and is currently working on doing those restructures. So I wanted people to kind of keep that in mind, that this is not like a ride that they've been doing 20 years. And I know some of the things that we'll be mentioning are things that I know he wants to work out, but you know, I want to be transparent again and be honest about it, that there's some things that, new to the position, new to the ride, you're going to have you know, some issues come up that you wouldn't if you had been, you had a ride director that had been in there 10 years and things of that nature.
I think that's very well said. I mean, from the moment that our team got there, we knew that um, something wasn't 100%. Meaning, it seemed
Well, that
very
was me, but
true. That's true. He's telling the truth. I mean, I appreciate you finally being honest, but no. There was like this weird competition, and and
yeah,
and it was like, you got to come over here. I mean, let's be honest. When you get when you do these kinds of adventures, that you're going to take a bus and you're going to put your bike somewhere on a vehicle and transport it to the starting location, and there's a processes. There's a process that doing that, and you know we're used to that. I mean, go over here, check your bike in here, get your luggage tags, and the one that I always think is so funny is how we got like asked 3 times for our license. And I thought to
yes, show
myself,
your ID.
I'm like, I mean, listen, I get it. You may need it for some lawyer or someone's told you to get my ID, but who in their right mind would be like, you know what? I'm gonna sneak onto this bus and ride
Sure.
almost 400 miles.
Give me a name off that. I'm Adam. I'm gonna take his place. And there's not a lot of people doing fraudulent activity to get on bicycle rides like this. So.
And I think we're so used to some other ones, like you said, it's the director's second year, and he was at the starting location, so you're trusting the rest of your staff and on the loading location to spread and send the same message that you're requiring or requesting that it's being there.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was just weird when we got there. It was like over here and do this and do that, and I mean,
Well, what was funny is when they would contradict each other.
yeah, back and forth.
And that's where I think that maybe one volunteer had done it one way one year and the other volunteer had done it another way, and they're just communication. But
yeah, I think you're right. They were kind of fighting, even to the point when we got on the bus, and they're like, "No, we're doing it this way," and it was so uncomfortable that I was like, "Okay, if you guys don't know what you're doing, I'm nervous," So the stage was kind of set, kind of convoluted from the beginning. So the basic concept is we needed luggage tags and which bus to get on and where to put our bikes and like here's an example. I've done this a lot of times with you. We've every now and then we look at each other like, here we go again. But this time we got there and they're like, you got to take your pedals off. Maybe tell me at home I have to take my pedals off and not when I get into a parking lot that my pedals have to come off to go into a truck. And it's just kind of
because I had gotten off a plane the day before and put my bike together and put the pedals on. If you'd have told me that, I'd have just left the pedals off. But that's the first time I'd ever been asked to take the pedals off. So
yeah, and I could see why, because they could load them closer together probably and maybe less damage of swinging, but
absolutely.
unfortunately you still had a little damage.
Yeah, they did ding up the bike a little bit, but
that's Italian.
Yeah, it's those are character marks.
Sure, Italian.
Like in antiques, you get a ding in your antique table or whatever. It's just character marks.
That's patina.
Tell a story.
Yeah. So
patina. I love it.
That sounds like a fancy word I've heard on.
It's a real deal. I'll educate you on patina on antiques later.
My favorite thing about Pawn Stars is when people bring in coins, they're all shiny. He's like, "You didn't clean this, did you?" And they're like, "Yeah." He's like, "No, you never cleaned the coin." So
yeah,
but so there was just a few things, and then we had already been asked our license like 2 times, and then we got on the bus, and then they're like, "We need your license." I'm like, "Again? Like how many times do you need to see my ID?" But then they're like, "No, they already showed their ID." So there was just a little bit of that, which didn't set the stage. But we had fun with our driver Jesse, who had a husband, 2 dogs, a cat, and 7 chickens that were free range. But
used to be free range, but are no longer free range. Yeah,
and everybody knows I'm in transportation. We've said that many a time. So we had a little fun because I'm very aware of what her requirements and job to do, and so we had a little fun with her, and I'm sure she had a good story for her husband, like that old boy wouldn't shut up. So, but and
let me tell you, riding a bus with this guy is, we'll just say, an interesting experience. We like to be right up front. If we can get the front row so we get the good view right out the front window, we'll do that.
For sure.
The problem with it is there's this silly yellow line. I get why they have the yellow line.
Excuse me. The federal standee line is not a silly line. It's a safety concern.
And I get that. The problem with it is Adam, we're sitting there, and if you put your foot all the way, I'm sitting right next to the aisle. If you put your foot all the way to the left and it hangs over the lip of, you step up for the seat, it technically goes a little bit over that yellow line. And I'm getting lectured that I'm over the yellow line. I mean,
even the driver told you had 3 strikes with the federal standee line.
That's because you kept pointing it out. I mean, it's not like I was standing up over the yellow. I'm just saying, it's always an adventure with Adam when you're on a bus, because he will inform you of what the federal regulations
It's
are.
like
And he will
watching
try to enforce them even though he's not working that day and it's not his bus and whatever. But
your wife's in the medical field. My wife's in the medical field. Watch a movie that has something to do with medical and they'll be like, that's not how it works, you know? Or like my dad, who's a pilot, who'll be like, this is just trash. He watching a plane, like, that would never happen. You'd have to call the tower and do this. I'm like, Dad, it's a movie. So, but
and I digress, but
anyway, so, but yeah, I mean, we made it across, had our bike, and
got to
got,
Alpena.
got to Alpena, checked in, and wouldn't you know it, we found a brewery within like less than a mile from
Right
camp.
down the street.
But you know, I mean, we got lucky. We had 7 days of great weather. It was just the last day, unfortunately. We'll get to that in the second episode here. But
Weather
beautiful.
was great.
Yep.
First 2 days, I will say. And we had the same problem when we rode Dolmac a couple years ago. The first 2 days of the rides in Michigan are like riding through a really wooded Iowa. And I say that because you'll be riding along and there's corn and maybe over here is Milo. And the further north you get in Michigan, you know that Milo turns to potatoes or maybe there's an apple orchard, but and then you'll move into like really forested parts, which is very beautiful. But when you go on shoreline, it's like, man, I want to see the water and I want to see all this. The first 2 days, you start off on the water and then you go around and you hit water when you get to your final destination. I
True.
get why they do it, because if you just went straight up the road like that one day, it was going to be like 24 miles. We would have been undone in, less than 2 hours, and that would have been our riding day. So I get why they do it. But Dolmac was the same way. You started down in Lansing and you had 2 days of this, wooded Iowa scenery before you got to like the really, really beautiful stuff.
True.
So,
True.
yeah, it's just the nature of the location of things. But the first couple days, Alpena, beautiful, Rogers City, right on the water, beautiful. But the daily ride, you're, in the countryside, and if you closed your eyes and you weren't in one of the really heavily pine areas, you wouldn't really notice you weren't like in Iowa or Georgia or something.
True. I mean, we kept saying, hey, I thought this ride was called Shoreline. So, but we did get to see some lighthouses
Oh yeah.
and I mean, you knew that you could see on your GPS on your bike computer. You could say, like, man, like right over there is a big body of water, but we were never near there. So, but in Sheboygan, uh, after we went Alpena, Rogers City to Sheboygan. In Sheboygan, we got to see the lighthouse and go out, and you could literally, I mean, it looked like the Mackinac Bridge was like it's just right over there. I mean,
Yeah. Well, it was literally, I think, 24 miles away
yeah.
by the main road that went right up the coast. And but Sheboygan was great. We got to go to the Sheboygan Brewery,
Mm-hmm.
which they had a lot of good beers. They didn't serve food, so you pulled out your phone, ordered us up a pizza. They delivered it. So we had pizza and beer there. And then we walked down to the Sheboygan Lighthouse there.
Yep.
And took some pictures. But you're right. I mean, you're looking right over there going,
I believe that
to,
was on my. I'm looking at my notes, but Sheboygan Crib Light.
yes,
Yeah.
small lighthouse right there, but it was really cool. And let me tell you, it was very tempting to go, you know what? 24 miles tomorrow, I could be in Mackinac City.
And ride the shoreline.
And ride the shoreline. It was very tempting to go off script and just, kind of banded it. But
The only problem
we
with that is
stuck
that
to it.
road. I mean, those RVs were just whipping by us. I mean, because the director did a great job when the reason why we went out into those areas where there were some scenic things that he had booked on the trip, like Black
Sure.
Lake and
There was a waterfall in a
and stuff.
state park, and yeah.
But also is because it was not as well populated and less traffic, and so Safety was a concern, but as well as easier to set up sag stops. And so, yeah, everybody was back at camp going, man, 24 miles, we could be there, we could have camp set up. But of course, it would have been unsupported. And some of the few miles that you come into town and you go on some of those major tourist highways, oh my gosh, the RVs and campers and shoo, shoo, I mean, just crazy fast and right by us. And so, or you'd hear like the rumble strips, brrr, brrr, makes you nervous. Like, oh my gosh, get away from me, please don't come near me. But um,
Yeah, I get it. It's just very hard when you're thinking 24 miles, I can be there. But we stuck to the script. We did it. What was interesting when we went from Sheboygan to Mackinac City, about 3/4 of the way through the day, we actually hit territory we'd been on before
we
in
did,
Dalmac.
yeah, we went by that polo field. And at first, to be honest, I was like, man, it just looks familiar. It looks familiar. And it wasn't until we made the turn where the Dalmac sag stop was from prior ride, and
There's
looking
like
at,
an old general store, or used to
yeah,
be a general store there.
and then that's when it was like, hey, and I looked at you and you looked at me, both of us about the same time. We've been here,
We've been
we've
here.
done this. So, and then coming into Mackinac, you and I knew what would be the best picture spot. The route actually took you right to the high school, like some convoluted back way. And we were like, we're not taking this. And so we told our team, go up here, turn left. And so we got a beautiful picture of the Mackinac Bridge, and then went and set up camp. So,
And the reason why we knew this, the last time we were through this stretch was at the end of the Dalmac ride.
yep,
Because we ended in Mackinac City, and ironically, we ended at the Mackinac City High School,
yep,
which is where we were actually going to camp. 2 blocks north of the high school is a small section of public access to the lake.
yeah.
It's between 2 houses. I'm sure those people hate it, but they have a city public access there. So you just go that 2 blocks and you're right down there, and you've got a beautiful view of the bridge. And that is actually where we took the final pictures for that Dalmac ride when we were finished.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and this time we took our picture this time, with our current team that was in Michigan with us, our team members that made the jaunt. And then at nighttime, on the layover day, we got beautiful sunset pictures that stayed light till like 10 o'clock at night, which was just amazing. And then of course
Incredible.
played with my phone features, night photography features on my phone, and got this Mackinac Bridge picture that was just awesome. So,
The
um,
beauty of this is we were down there for the sunset, and we probably spent, I don't know, 45 minutes, an hour there,
yeah,
sitting on this sandy beach, looking out onto, at that point, it would have been Lake Michigan.
hmm
To our left was the setting sun. To our right was the Mackinac Bridge. So, you could just take these beautiful panoramic pictures where you got the sunset scanning around. You see UP, the Upper Peninsula, and then you hit Mackinac Bridge. And I mean, it was just beautiful and gorgeous setting out there.
that definitely couldn't agree more. The the in between the layover day, one of the neatest pieces of this ride is getting to go to Mackinac Island.
Oh, yeah.
Part of the fee is you get a ticket and a bike ticket, which we found out was about $55 street value, to be able to.
Street value.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was part of
We're
the
walking around downtown Mackinac City going, psst, come here, buddy. I'll sell you.
for $55 you can take you and your bike across the way there. But um,
It is a nice perk of the ride.
and so we jumped on the ferry, but before we do that, I gotta incorporate. You think I should tell the Jess story?
You need to tell, yes, you need to tell the Jess story. That is a
Okay.
very funny story.
Okay. So before we get to the Mackinac Island, Mackinac City is a very touristy um, little piece, the little town there, right at the tip of the Lower Peninsula.
Gateway to Mackinac Island and the
Ab-
Mackinac Bridge.
and the Shepler's Ferry is there, in which we took the next day, and then um, what we were just kind of walking around Mackinac City, and they got tchotchke stores and fudge stores and ice cream stores, and did I mention they had fudge stores?
They
And
yeah, they had more than one. Now let me explain one thing, which I don't think a lot of people understand. Mackinac City sits right at the edge. The Mackinac City Bridge does not take you to Mackinac Island.
mm-mm,
The bridge, the Mackinac Bridge, is 5 miles long from Mackinac City, takes you up to the what they call the UP, the Upper Peninsula.
lands in St. Ignace, and then up in
Right.
UP.
So the bridge, you have to take the ferry to get to Mackinac Island. I just wanted to clarify that because I think that's a lot of people don't understand that
I mean, you don't have to, but it's much easier. You could swim. You could. I'm just kidding. No,
when it freezes in the wintertime, you could
ride your.
walk or
I
snowmobile. But
mean, Neil rode his bicycle
that's
for.
right.
But yes, good point. I'm glad that you mentioned that. So when we were in Mackinac City the night before, we were looking for some place to have dinner, and we were walking around, and we both had ideas of what to get our wives, because normally on these trips we like to do something for our wives. You have a family with kids. Mine was taking care of our cats. And so I said, I'm going to find something. And so there was a little store that has like ornaments and ceramic
It
things.
was like a northern Michigan home decor type store. They had ornaments and ornamental things and yeah.
So we were walking around, and my wife loves hummingbirds, always has, and I see this ornament hanging, and it's like a hummingbird that is looks like, if you were looking twice, you think it's a real hummingbird flying around, and had a very nice, like, beak and everything. And I said, "Oh, I'd like to get that for her," but I was afraid, because I'm like, "Well, we pack up our stuff every night, and we take it on the truck, and the bags get." I'm sure I wasn't ever there when they took them off, but I guarantee you they weren't like, "Ooh, and let me set your bag over here carefully." I wasn't there, so I'm sure like, "Get out of here." So I was like, I said, "Can I ask you a strange question?" When I went up to the desk, and the lady said, very sarcastically, "Depends on what it is." And I said, "Listen, I'm on a cycling trip. I don't have a car." And she's like, "Oh, okay. I thought you were going to tell me you're on vacation." Like, no kidding. Like, because everyone's on vacation. It's a tourist area. I was like, "That is so funny." I said that, no, no, no. I said, and we just hit it off right away. And I said, "No, no, I'm on a bicycle trip." And she said, "Well, what if I did this?" And she got out some bubble wrap and a box. And I said, "Oh, that's great. Yeah, I'd like to purchase that." And another young lady was there, and she started asking us questions. And um, she said, "Are you guys going out to the island?" And I said, "Yeah, yeah. Tomorrow, part of this tour is we get a a ticket out to the island and on the ferry." I said, "Can I ask you?" I said, "You just go over there with your bike?" And she said, "Yeah, there's like a passenger like door. You don't go where the cars are. You go, and then that's how you get in line." And she's like, "Oh," she says, "My sister works on the island." And I go, like, immediately, like the cynical, like evil Adam twin kicked into play, and I said, "Would you would you mind if I mess with your sister tomorrow?" And she's like, "What do you mean?" And I said, "I like to do this thing, like, I used to be a wedding photographer, and someone would give me someone's name. I would be like, 'Oh, Jim, you and I went to high school together.' And they're like, 'I don't know you from nothing.' Like, no. And then I find out some sort of information about this person, and then I'm able to,
Yeah,
you
they were
know,
like, you didn't go to, Lancaster High School.
yeah, exactly. And I'm like, "I did. Remember, we were Lancaster High, home of the Eagles," or just play with it. And so she's like, "Yeah." And so I said, "Well, what's her name?" And she said, "Jess." And I said, "Okay." And she said, "Joanne works. Jess works at the Joanne's fudge shop." And I was like, "Is there just one fudge shop?" And
Yeah,
she's like,
it's the fudge shop that's 2 blocks south versus the fudge shop that's 2 blocks north.
because they both had the same name. And so I said, "Okay, all right." And I said, "All right." And so that was it. I mean, then we went back to camp and didn't think anything more of it. And in the morning, we had a plan. We wanted to, um, we
Mighty
wanted
Mac.
Mighty Mac. We certain shuttles. Forgive me. Certain ferries in the morning actually went under the bridge. So you actually start on Lake Huron, and then you go out, and it goes underneath the bridge, which is the line, if you will, that then you get to Lake Michigan, and then it comes back into Lake Huron, and then you get to go underneath the bridge and look up, and they talk about when it was started and how long it's 5 miles and all kinds of
Very
people.
cool.
And so then you dock. You don't
I
land
don't know where
anywhere.
you were at.
Yeah. Well, you land on the island. It's the plane, boss. The plane. I'm just kidding. But you dock at the island, um, and then you get off, and they hand you your bike, and you walk through the gates there, and then now you're on the island. And if anyone's never been to Mackinac Island or heard about Mackinac Island, they don't allow motorized traffic. It is bicycles and horses only. And let me tell you,
And
there's
more bicycles.
and
And
more
more
horse
bicycles.
and lots of bicycles and lots of horse. And then, um, but
Did kind of smell like the county fair when I got off the ferry and we got uptown, but I was just impressed at the crews that do these ferries. I mean, they must have packed on, I don't know, 75 bicycles
yeah,
on our thing.
yeah,
And literally, you go up there, you hand them the bike, and they just like passing it down the line. A person's putting it. When they unload, they're just like rolling them out. And the fencing along the dock is this metal fencing that's probably, I don't know, 3-4 inches wide and works beautifully for bike racks. So they're just grabbing them, rolling them out, and just sticking them in there, and they can unload and load that thing in no time at all. It was very impressive.
it, so our team and some guests decided to do it's 8.2 miles around the island.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful trail. I mean, that talk about shoreline, that was shoreline the whole time.
Definitely.
You were nice enough to bring your backpack, and you carried our tennis shoes. And throughout there's a natural bridge. It's like a wonder of the world, almost, if you will. And so there was, I don't know, 400 or 500 steps up in the air, and so we stopped a couple of miles in, and then we put our tennis shoes on, and then we were able to climb these stairs. Beautiful pictures.
You're
Looking,
welcome.
I said you were nice enough, buddy. Do you want me to, ladies and gentlemen? I officially thank him, but um, uh, and then just kidding, just kidding, just kidding, just kidding. But so we then came back and rode around the rest of the island, and it's just a beautiful place. We had a special delivery for our buddy's daughter. She had turned 21, and so we had a license to deliver. And the only reason that's important is because in Michigan, your licenses are vertical until you turn 21, then they're horizontal, and people, you
No
kind of
one
like,
wants a vertical license.
no, it's like, and plus, when you turn 21, they stamp all, I mean, they punch a hole in it and staple your new information. So, like, she's 21. She's obviously, it's a rite of passage. She's going out with her friends at night, probably having a cocktail, and they're like, let me see your license. And she's like, gets out like a 46 by 22-inch billboard, handing it, just kidding. But I'm sure it's like 6 by 8, but still. But so we delivered the license and had lunch, and then went up to the fort and went up by Skull Cave. Is that what that was
It was,
called?
yeah, Skull Cave, which was not really much of a cave.
Mm-mm.
And I don't know about you, but I didn't see any skulls.
I didn't see any skulls either.
I don't
So
know where they got the name from, but we hiked up there and saw it. The fort was really cool. We didn't go into the fort, but we walked around the fort. So that was beautiful. Just the whole island was beautiful. And what I found interesting is because there's no vehicles, they have several resorts there. And so the people will get onto wagons with these big draft horses, and they will, kind of like 1870s, this wagon has taken these 6 people up to the resort. And they'll hook like a cart on the back and shrink wrap all their luggage on there, and that'll go up. But there's just horses and carts everywhere. And in fact, like, you have to get the liquor from the from the ferry to the bars and things, they put that on a cart too. There was this big old cart that came by that had vodka and bourbon and gin and beer, and it was just on this horse-drawn cart that was taking it to the bar, and they were unloading it. So it was kind of a cool experience from that thing that I really enjoyed.
You and I were both in scouts, and so when we got to the top, almost, I don't want to say at the highest level, but very close to the
Awful
highest
close.
level, there's a like a Girl Scout camp there, and these girls were crushing cans, and they all had Scouts uniforms on, and we both of us kind of like had a memory because we were both in
Oh
scouts, and
yeah.
um, so I mean that was pretty much it. But then you had bought me a birthday present
Mm-hmm.
of a Templeton Rye jersey, and you had yours on, I had mine on, and we walked into Winchester's, and which was a bourbon bar, and wouldn't you know it, they had Templeton Rye, and so we
Of
shared a
course, had to
Templeton
have
Rye.
one because we were wearing the jerseys. Absolutely.
And getting back to the Jess story, when we finished that, I got a quick work call, and then I said, "Okay, I'm on vacation. I got to get off this call." And then I looked up, and then I remembered Jess because I saw the Joanne's sign, and I was like, "Of course, I had had a bourbon, and so there's liquid courage." And so I, I said, "Oh, we got to go into Joanne's." And so we we walk into Joanne's, and I said, "Hey, is Jess here?" And,
Now, let me stop you right there.
okay,
This is a really good story. Um, and I think we should save the rest of it to our next episode because this story is funny.
okay.
So I think we've set the stage. What's going to happen? Is Jess there? What's going to transcribe? What is Adam doing looking for this total stranger that he's got a name for? So I'd say we save that. We have a couple things to close out this episode, and I say we save the rest of that story for our next episode.
I love it, and I think that's very fair. Which comes out 1 week from today. So, with further ado, let's. Why don't we finish up what we normally do? We said we have a little surprise. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time for listener spotlight.
That's right. Even though this is a two-part series, we thought we'd still throw in another listener spotlight. So I've got some clues for you for this episode's listener spotlight. Um, this community started out originally as a land grant, and it is named for a local landowner. Iron was found in this area, which became a major financial driver for the community. And that iron was used, among other things, for the military. It is the home to a famous Revolutionary War hero. And because of a former resident of this community, bugs have a reason to live in fear. I'll give you one more, and this is a good one. This town and community has its very own cryptid. You know what a cryptid is, don't you?
Normally, I would be a smart aleck and be like, "Oh yeah, I know what it is." I really don't know what it is.
Well, you know me. I watch TV all the time. I mean, you're trying to sleep, and I'm like, over there watching TV and things of that nature. So I'm always watching TV, and generally it's not great TV. Generally, it's hey, let's go find Bigfoot. Bigfoot is a cryptid. They're like creatures
Okay.
that they haven't proved that they exist, but there's a lot of like Bigfoot and Loch Ness Monster and things of that nature. Those are all cryptids. This town has its very own cryptid.
Hmm.
So there we
Well,
go.
all right.
Not St. Louis.
I would say no, based
No.
upon what you just said, the land grant and everything else. It doesn't add up. So, um, in that case, we will have the second part of this coming out in a week, and we look forward to having you listen to that. Uh, for sure, when we were in Michigan, it was a great day for a bike ride.
It was indeed.